Hello, 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 dear Pyjamas. That's our first live session for Pyjama Talks. I hope we are online. And as you can see, there are 7 people for now. We hope that there would be more. So if you can see us or me, please put any emoji into the chat because it's really sophisticated software. So I'm not sure are we online or not. So if you have access to chat. Okay. So and our guest today is really awesome and really epic guy. So to present him, I prepared really sophisticated multicam, multi-recording studio. So and to introduce this person, I wrote a song, but it's a bit silly. But let's watch. So. Our guest today is an awesome guy. That's for sure. You don't need to verify. If you disagree, he will throw a persimmon at you, literally. Our guest today is Friedman Vitaly. And hello, Vitaly.
Wow, that was the first one. I think that we deserve to send Evgeny a round of applause as emoji or as text or anything of the kind. Thank you. That was very kind. It's the first time I had this kind of introduction.
Yeah. And actually, I forgot to, I have a lot of windows here. A lot of things is happening
so
here.
You're a Windows guy, huh?
Yeah, no, not right now. So, and let me introduce myself because I have banners here. So, hi, my name is Evgeny Kot. I'm from Wrike, and that's it. Yeah, I'm not a main person here. And our guest today is Vitaly Friedman, co-founder and editor-in-chief of Smashing Magazine. And yeah, hi again, Vitaly.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and our first section is about you. So, actually, for those who don't know, who are you, what are you doing, and who is Vitaly Friedman?
Well, actually, I wish I'd known. I have no idea what I'm doing with my life, and this is what my brother tells me all the time when I meet him. So this is the story of my life. Actually, I was... I started working around Macromedia, Macromedia Shockwave back in the day. And my first website, I built my first website like 1997, 1998. If anybody remembers, is old enough to remember things like virtualave.net. This is where it was hosted. And I spent quite a bit of time doing freelancing work. And then eventually we created a company which was called Smashing Magazine at the time. Well, it still is. And it was a publishing house where we published books and articles, and it became this smashing thing with conferences and workshops and job board, and and I feel like most of my time is just being available, or is spent being available to people, answering questions and acting on certain things that happen, while the other is consultancy, when I spend quite a bit of time in companies working on front end or design. That's me.
Yeah, but I would say that it's quite a lot of things that you're doing. So,
but it's fun. It's fun.
But you're really famous from your awesome talks, awesome workshops, and other stuff. And
Well, that's what you think. I mean, come on. There are people who are famous, and there are people who just been around for a while. I think I belong to the second group.
And I know that you really love to throw things at people from the stage.
Not online. Online is kind of difficult.
Yeah,
but I do love throwing things at people.
You can throw something into the cam, like sushi.
Well, I do have like I can throw this, but not. I mean, I would love to throw them at you, but I don't think that this would be professional or reasonable at this point, because you're the host and I'm the guest. So I try to behave here.
Yeah, we are really respectful here. Yeah, most of us. Yeah, this is really serious program. This is really serious show.
And so, by the way, what is the show about? Can you tell us?
Yeah, of course. Actually, the idea of this show is that right now, all this COVID and online is everywhere. There are so many blogs, podcasts, any I don't know, Smashing Magazine papers, everything. The information is everywhere, and I don't know. Me personally, I feel a bit overwhelmed with all of this. So I'm always like thinking, oh, and yet another course. I should, I don't know, learn more. I should read more books because right now I have time. I don't have an excuse to say, hey, sorry, I don't have a time for addition one more book. So, and there are a lot of information. We wanted to create some show that would be lightweight and funny and maybe entertaining. But the main guest of the show is guest. In this case, it's you, Vitaly. So, uh, yeah,
This sounds
yeah,
like a fun approach. So are you going to tell some jokes today? And
I
we're not, just to be very clear, we're not allowed to talk about work, right?
yes. Well, it depends. If your work is entertaining and really funny, you can talk about that.
It's always entertaining and being funny. I feel like I could, if I was born in a different reality and if a different universe existed, I'd probably be a stand-up comedian. I mean, it
Uh,
would be fun.
well, you can try it, maybe right now.
Well, I don't think I have jokes prepared,
But
but you are.
yes. But one thing is, it's a bit different, and why I can't imagine you as a stand-up artist. Usually, the funniest joke in the universe is they are about really offensive stuff. About some sensitive topics, and usually they are most the funniest one. So can you joke about something really
No, I'm not an offensive person at all. I try to
yeah,
be respectful and kind, most of the time at least.
but it can be a really nice pair of stand-up comedies. I will be a bad guy, I will swear from the stage, and I will speak about this kind of topics, and you would be a nice guy.
Evgeny, do you see that we have some people joining? I think that these numbers might drop once you start being offensive to people. This is a way of how it usually works.
Yes, but I hope that your charisma and your like beautiful face will people will stay at our stream, and NP thinks that Vitaly is very funny.
Until he isn't.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I know so I think that many people they don't know you good enough. So I prepared a couple of really offensive questions, not offensive,
Oh,
of
that sounds
course.
great. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, so to know you better, And my first question to you, Vitaly Friedman, editor-in-chief and co-author of Smashing Magazine, the biggest magazine and the most famous one about web and, all this stuff. Do you know JavaScript?
No.
No, not at all.
Well, so the thing is, my job has been actually to have a very clear picture of what's happening, I think. So this has been very, very important because from the very start, my interests were kind of all over the place. So for a while I was doing PHP just when I was starting out. And then I realized that I'm a really bad PHP developer, like a really, really bad PHP developer.
Like most of the PHP developers.
Well, that is offensive.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are great PHP developers out there. But then I realized that I actually am interested in design and typography, so I moved there. And I spent a lot of time in design, and then CSS came along, and so that was kind of a really timely, I would say. It was really fun because I felt like, oh, this is exactly what I want to kind of do. But then I got bored of it, and then I moved into accessibility, and then I moved into performance, and then I moved to JavaScript, and then I moved to CSS again. So I was kind of all over the place. And I think like my main goal is really been to know about what is happening and to be able to dive into APIs or into specs or into anything really if I need to. So I did write some JavaScript, but I wouldn't call myself a JavaScript developer for sure. So I understand JavaScript, I can debug JavaScript, I can see if certain things are done well or not, but I would be a horrible JavaScript developer, pretty much like I would be a horrible PHP developer, I think.
And maybe horrible stand-up artist. Who knows?
Probably. That's very likely. And you know what's really interesting? I think I feel like my main superpower. Do you have a superpower, Ishin?
Of course, yeah.
What is your superpower?
Yeah, at night, in the middle of the night, I just transform into a cat, lazy fat cat. Yeah,
I
that's
wouldn't
that's
call
my
it a superpower, but that's okay. Let's go with that.
kind of power.
Okay, but I think like in my case, if you actually, dear friends who are joining us today, if you are looking or Googling for highly sensitive people TED Talk, you'll find a very nice talk from I think 4 or 5 years ago, where one of I believe it was a professor at the university, she was speaking about different kinds of people. And she was speaking about the specific kind of people which are called the ultra or highly sensitive people. And these are people who have a very strong empathy with other people, including people they don't know, which is very interesting. That means that, of course, if you have a friend and the friend needs help, you'll be very empathetic and friendly with them, right? But you would be the same with people you don't even know. And I think that in many ways it kind of represents me, because when I look at the interfaces, or when I look at how things interact, like on the web, I realize that if
you can feel the pain, yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like if I struggle with it and I feel like this is not quite right, or I would misunderstand it, I actually misunderstand it, then I feel like many people would experience the same. And this has been an incredible power for me. Because if I discover something and when I have some sort of a hunch that this is weird or not quite right, then I can validate it in tests. And quite frequently, I wouldn't say like all the time, but quite frequently my hunch is right. Which brings me to a better solution for companies, which is, in the end, why I get hired to work on projects. Because we end up improving interface, not because, I always know better, but because I have this kind of really sensitivity for design and I guess interaction on the web. This is really, really important. And so this is why also like being able to dive in and understand this is right or this is wrong, this is good JavaScript, bad JavaScript, helped me without having to write a single code of JavaScript over the last 5 years.
I have almost the same superpower, because once I watched some YouTube video, guy eats a super hot burrito, and I almost cried because I was so empathetic. So
that's maybe not quite what I was about to say, but that's okay.
It's almost the same. And let's jump into the next question. So you are really famous, well, not really famous, but kind of famous speaker, and you talked, I don't know, how many conferences do you attend per year, maybe?
You mean like 2020?
Like the normal year, previous year.
Well, this is also a very interesting question, by the way, because I think that we're living through the very important transition in the way we run conferences, and we'll be attending conferences in the future. So maybe that would be something to speak about later. But yeah, there would be, I would have months where I'd be speaking on like 10 conferences or so.
That's a lot. So, and I don't know about every culture in the world, every tech community in the world, but in many communities, for instance, like Russian-speaking communities, sometimes there is a bias against talking heads. So people who is really professional, like consultants, advocates, almost everyone who's professional engaged in conferences, and many tech people and like friends of mine, they think that it's not real programming, and like real true hardcore programmer cannot be a talking head.
I think that there are a few sides to it. On the one hand, you see obviously like Google advocates, developer relationship teams, where these people know, they know everything about what they need to know. I think that they are definitely hardcore developers because they have a huge career behind them where they had to work on really critical projects and they proved themselves. Think about people like Jake Archibald or Ejos Money, right? No question about that. On the other hand, yes, you do have speakers who kind of like me, I guess, who are not real developers. I do write CSS for the site and we work on accessibility and all those things, but I'm actually spending a bit more time on design and UX specifically. But I am involved in decisions about what stack are we going to use, what libraries are we going to use, how we're going to architect this entire beast and things like that. So in some ways I can see where it's coming from, right? And in fact, of course, people who are speaking a lot, they have less time to develop, right, or build, or they kind of choose to build less and choose to speak more. There is one value that I think is not really related to development, but that's a very good skill to have, and that being able to explain complicated concepts to regular developers, right? Kind of improving their skills as a result. And this is why you see really incredible developers who have become more like developer teachers, like Wes Bos, and there are a couple of them who kind of really push with video courses on everything from JavaScript architecture to security and performance and all of that. And this is becoming their kind of main revenue as well, or main income. So personally, I would still call them developers, although they don't develop code all the time, because it's essentially their job to understand what is going on, what the state of things is in the JavaScript world, track what is happening and what's going to happen next, and what you need to know when you're refactoring or rebuilding, right? So I think that it's just different flavors, I guess, of development, but not necessarily like hardcore developer who is sitting in front of the machine, like working on a product every day, because it's a bit more diverse. You're right about that.
Can you imagine yourself attending or being a speaker on C++ conference or hardcore Java conference?
Actually, I really like going to conferences where I have no idea what's going on. So, for example, I really felt for a long time, especially over the last couple of years, because I attended so many front-end conferences, that I don't learn anything. This is essentially it. I mean, I've heard or I've seen maybe 10 talks about CSS right? So, or I heard 10 talks about WebAssembly. And I'm like, okay, unless it's a very specific case study, right? Not an introduction to WebAssembly or like what is WebAssembly, then it's interesting. But most of the time, I kind of know what it is and what it's supposed to be used for and so on and so forth. So for a while, I started looking around what other kinds of conferences exist, right? And I would look out for SEO conferences, which I never attended in the past, marketing, like all kind of things where I'm really, really bad at. Or the same goes for HTML email conferences. But Litmus sets up a really, really good one. And the vibe is different, the technology is different, and I learned a lot from these conferences, right? And so totally, because I studied computer science, so I did program in Java, and I did program in C++. So I understand concepts. I probably wouldn't understand what the hell they're talking about in terms of specific concepts that they're kind of applicable now and frameworks and whatever it is they're using. But I think I would learn quite a bit about the landscape, which would probably help me when I talk to backend developers or front-end developers later. So would totally go. Even once I went to a mini conference hosted by lawyers. I'm not joking. Because it's very interesting to see like how do they think, how do they make up cases, and how do they share. And we talk about our community, and they have another community. But in the same way, what I noticed, for example, in that particular case, was that while we are very open, right, you see a lot of communities in front end sharing openly about failures and about successes and about case studies, everything really. You will not see this in kind of close communities like with lawyers, because you're not supposed to talk about cases, you're not supposed to talk companies and so on. So in many ways, we should not forget that we are really privileged to be able to share what we've learned, and we do so. And this is our kind of, I think it's really our, how would put it best, this is a very significant attribute that defines our community that not many others have. So let's cherish it.
For instance, health community, doctors, they usually don't share their fuck-ups.
Well, they probably shouldn't. And there is also a client-doctor confidentiality thing. So have you ever signed some sort of like, developer-client confidentiality agreement?
Well, there is a NDA and, all this like papers, but I don't think there is that if you share one CSS code or JavaScript code, you go to jail, because like it's shitty code anyways. So
maybe that's the future. You don't know. Maybe it's very interesting to see where we're heading. I mean, it's a separate conversation anyway.
Yeah, And our next question, and by the way, you can ask you, because later in this show we will look at some funny examples of something. I will not tell about right now, but I have another question, and it's totally like off topic. As far as I know, you are a hug person, and
Yes.
have you ever been in a situation when you try to hug someone or like something like this, and this person, this speaker or whatever, says, "Well, stop right there." Is there any difference, in cultures? Because I know that many Russians, they are always grumpy. Of course, I'm a super grumpy person.
Are
Uh,
you? I
I
think
never smile.
you're one of the friendliest. Well, come on. You smile when you drink the first tequila.
It's because of the pain. It's yeah.
I see. Yeah, but I think that you're very friendly, actually. I think so. Yes, I've been to many countries. I mean, most of the time, you kind of have to set some defaults, I think, and it's also about expectations. So I try to be respectful and kind of read people if I can. Just because I meet so many people, it's been very useful to be kind of respectful of the culture, right? Obviously, if you meet somebody from Middle East, you will probably behave differently than if it's somebody from the US. And there are certain gestures and certain ways of approaching cultures. A wonderful book that I can highly recommend for somebody who is maybe has to work in business or kind of deal with different people from different parts of the world is The Culture Map. I would need to look up the author's name. I think it was a professor from the
Yeah,
US.
I know this book. It's like Culture's Map. Yeah, it's. I know
Yeah.
that it's yellow cover.
I think, I don't know. I think it was maybe it was a different edition, but
I
essentially it's a really good book, which kind of explains how people behave and how what you need to respect when you're talking to different people in different groups, right? And I think this is very important because I would never just go and hug somebody. That can be perceived in a very wrong way. But of course, with friends, I am a hugger indeed.
And yeah, I'm trying to find this book, and actually let me show you. Is this? It should be this one. Share.
Yes,
Is
that's the one.
yes? Yeah.
But the one that I have, not the yellow one, the white one.
No, this one.
Aaron Meyer, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I totally recommend it. So we will post links in description after this show. So yeah. So and
But I would always hug you if you allow me to do that.
uh, mm, we will talk about it later. And
Okay.
that you're a really open person and really professional person, and you're professional on the stage. But I think that it was not always like that. So, can you remember any most awkward moment on stage? I don't know, your first talks or something like this.
I think there are many. I don't even know where to start actually, because I mean, really weird things happened to me. I fell off the stage twice.
Wow,
I
like
did. I fell off the stage because it was really kind of it was a lengthy stage, but not very wide stage. So I literally fell off and ripped the curtains with me. That was fun. I wasn't injured, so I just continued. That was kind of interesting. On the other hand, I think that one of the best talks I've ever given, I will never forget it, was in Zurich 2015 or maybe 16. And that was incredible because there was a Zurich open air running at the same time. So it's a huge music festival. And there were a couple of really good bands that I liked. And I went just before my talk because I was supposed to speak first on the day. Just before that, I went and I danced all night long. And I came back to the hotel at like 6:30, like really, really late. And I had to give a talk at 9. That was the best talk I've ever given. I was all over the place, and it was probably one of the first time when I had some sort of like a standing ovation.
wow.
That was
So
probably my best performance so far. Yeah.
people standing, like clapping, and I don't know.
They're like some, I mean, not all of them, but some of them. That was very memorable. Beyond that, what else? Well, I remember my performance in Estonia, in Tallinn. I was giving a talk, the last talk of the day, And I was showing, you probably know sometimes how it works. So I was showing something on the screen, and I had my laptop in front of me, and then I had my phone in my hands. And then I was essentially showing how people click on interact with website and stuff like that. It was like also 4 or 5 years ago. And then accidentally, as you know, I like throwing things. I accidentally let it drop. It dropped, and it actually fell right on the trackpad on the laptop.
Wow.
The laptop died right away.
Wow.
And actually, there is a video of it. There is a recording of it. If you search for WUD Estonia, Friedman, you probably should be able to find it. And that was really horrible because my laptop died. I didn't have a fallback or like backup. And I was just speaking to the rest without slides. And it was maybe like 15 minutes in or so. I will never forget that. That was a very memorable experience for me, for sure. Right? Let's see what else happened to me. Like the awkward things. Yeah, well, sometimes I get to introduce people who are a bit difficult or a bit strange without calling names. And I had to introduce a couple of people which I really didn't like. I mean, professionally, they're perfectly fine, but they do not quite share the values that I stand for. And so that was really difficult and awkward to me, to be honest. And this is the moment where you kind of have to fight through your inner self and just be professional, I guess. Wasn't a great experience. So that was, I think you can tell. If somebody doesn't like to do something and is forced to do it, essentially, you can tell from the expression on their face or the way they speak that this is not the experience they enjoy. So this was a bit awkward for me as well.
And you said that you're really empathetic person and you can feel so, but people they can be evil, or maybe not evil, but there are some bad people. So, and you have to you cannot stop this, right? This empathy.
Well, true, but at the same time I feel like I'm not just, it's not like I'm just closing my eyes and just proceed. So if somebody behaves badly, I will call them out and I will make it right. Because one thing that I really cannot stand is the lack of fairness. So if something isn't quite right or is not justified, or somebody's just being disrespectful or hurts anybody, I can feel it. And I think very much like, people who respect other people would. And so I would not be silent then. Which brought me to a few interesting, situations on stage as well, which we probably shouldn't get into.
Okay. Have you ever played some role-playing games? I mean, like computer games?
Actually, I'm not a big fan of games. The last game I was playing was FIFA 2004.
Wow. That
was maybe a very long time ago. Actually, Nadezhda is writing about Tallinn. Yeah, it was at WD 2016, indeed.
Yeah, so
did you attend it, Nadezhda, by any chance?
Yeah, great talk back, and so it looks like chat is.
It looks like I'm not lying.
Yeah. Wow. That's so about this role-playing games RPG. So I believe if you were a computer game character, you would be a paladin. The shiny knight in the white.
Okay, I don't mind that at all. This sounds like fun.
Yeah, why not? And we talked about the companies that you the Smashing Magazine and other stuff, and looks like there are, of course, many sites of the barricades, but there are some people who actually always worked in some big companies, like for instance myself. I always so I'm like office worm or something like this. But you don't have such experience. You are like from the opposite side. You always worked for yourself most of the time.
Yeah, so it was interesting because I think that one thing that I realize now is that being a consultant is a really bad thing, actually. So if anybody who's listening to us or joining us today thinks about moving to consultancy, I would probably highly discourage you from doing that. I'll explain in a moment why. I think what I'm really missing at this point of my life, and I'm 35 now, and again, just to make it a bit more clear, so half of my life is essentially working on smashing and all kind of projects that we work on. But the other half is really kind of moving from one company to another, working with them. Like probably the most interesting project recently was European Parliament, where we were working on multimedia pages and internal pages and all the things in there. There was a lot of legacy there as well. It was really fascinating and it's quite complicated. And at the same time, there are also a couple of insurance companies that I'm working with and this and that. So I try to be involved with my work, not just speak about things and not just write about things, and not just run our product, but also kind of be involved and see how front end is and what people decide and designers and so on and so forth. And so one important thing that I realized when I moved into consultancy, because I was freelancing back in 2003, 2006. I was working for a design agency for a year or so, 8 months, 12 months. And then essentially I got lucky, I guess, and we just set up a company, and it ended up being quite interesting to many people. So we kind of started growing the Smashing brand. And I never actually had a CV, like ever, which is very confusing to me when people ask me for a CV, because I don't really have one and I don't even know how to create one.
You can just send them smashingmagazine.com.
Well, I mean, most of the time when somebody wants to work with me, they want to see who I've worked with, and I have a couple of really good names that I can mention, like Auto.de and Marco Polo and a couple of other brands. But it's been very, very difficult for me to say I did this or I did that. Because you come into the company like Marco Polo or Auto, right? And you do something. It could be a series of workshops. It could be trainings. It could be literally like consultancy, where you say, let's study what the state of front end is, what the state of design is, interface design, and let's do this, and let's try this, and let's create a prototype for this and that, and so on. And then by the end of that week or 2 weeks or maybe a month, right, you have some prototypes that you've built, and you have a nice fancy report. And in my case, I have reports like literally like 50 pages long with all kind of different mock-ups and explanations, because we do user testing and so on. And so as a consultant, this is kind of my deliverable, right? My deliverable is not the product that's been deployed and it leaves live. It's just a research, a prototype, some user interviews, and that's it, right? And so when I was asked approximately, again, like 5 years ago or so can you show me the work that you are doing? So what was the recent kind of project you were involved with? And it's been very hard for me, because I basically produce reports, right? I can't say, oh, remember, like, look at this page here, this is what I designed, because most of the time these things get changed when they go in production, or these things just don't make it because there are other priorities in place, right? So for quite a long time, I had a real kind of internal crisis, because I do all these things and I'm involved in all these projects, but I can't really say that, I did this, because there is nothing to show. That was making me very unhappy for a long time, right? Which is why I started looking and working with companies where I have a dedicated time, at least, let's say 5 months or 6 months, where I can actually commit to something, then I can see things through, right, and really relate to it. And this is where I am now. But one thing that I also realized is that one thing that was missing really is the fact that I was never working in some sort of outsourcing company like EPAM. Never. And I think I should.
Like EPAM.
Like EPAM. It would be really interesting, because I realize now at this point of my career that I'm missing a lot of knowledge domains. So every time I'm working with a particular domain, like insurance again, I have to start learning from scratch all the business processes and logic and what is involved and all of that. The same goes for medical health insurance and whatever. And I totally miss it. And it takes a lot of time to get through it. A lot of research, a lot of time. So I wish I was working in a company for maybe a year or two, where I would be jumping like every other month from one domain to another. I think that it would benefit me a lot.
Maybe you can try one company, like it starts from W, and like Wrike, and
Yeah, sounds like Nike.
yeah, it's like Nike. And you're like a preacher, so you're not telling your clients what to do exactly, but you can show them what what they should expect in the future if they will not follow your orders.
That's interesting, kind of, yes, because I look, I mean, for the last, I don't know, like 15 years or so, I've been looking out on different projects. I like case studies. I read, like, whenever there is a case study on Medium, I will read all of them, like be it backend, be it front end, be it interface design, be it conversion, e-commerce. I really like getting these insights into this company did that, they use this kind of infrastructure or this kind of architecture, they made these kind of decisions, this was wrong, and then we changed and moved here. And I really like this kind of process and thinking. So why things are done in a certain way and the decisions that are made, right? And so I collect this knowledge somehow internally and also in my slides. When I'm speaking, I kind of like looking into patterns that appear from companies doing the same mistakes or not repeating the same mistakes, but instead kind of using the same solutions to get to better results. And this gives me a very good edge because I can see that with a high probability, I mean, we don't know because every single company is different and every single project is different and every single user base is different. But there is a certain chance that this particular process or this particular technique or this particular solution might be worth trying out for that company. And this is a very unique knowledge that I have just because I've been accumulating all of these cases and all these examples for the last 15 years. And I think that this is why I bring value, not because I write beautiful JavaScript or CSS or anything, but just because I've seen quite a lot of stuff on the web. And so this, I guess, is my edge.
You've seen some shit. Can I say shit on this stream?
I don't know. It depends if you have any kind of,
So if you are under 18, please leave. And actually, Nadezhda said that, yeah, she.
Oh, that's very nice. I hope that wasn't a bad talk. It was like 4 or 5 years ago
now. So let's jump on. Let's jump to next section and let's heat up our discussion.
I have a question for you, Evgeny, because Vladimir is wondering, will you be talking about yourself only today? Well, that's a question.
Yeah, that's a good question. Sorry, it's different. Yes, no. We will jump into the next section right now. And actually, I prepared one. It's not a challenge, but it's a dirty dozen. Top 12 best design solutions real life. And your job would be to review them and maybe share your opinion, or sometimes they are a bit tricky. And actually, Vitaly, it's a surprise for him. It's so it's not
here.
Yeah, so it's not scripted. So, and on the position number 12 of best real life design, it's yeah. What do you think about that?
I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at because there is a replication of buttons. I don't like replicated buttons. It seems like it's the same buttons repeated twice, and I'm not quite sure why. Some of them, not all of them, and I'm not quite sure why. What I like is that they're accessible because you can see the little dots, right? So people who are blind can actually read them.
But I think this like without the buttons, without borders, they are not real buttons. It's just labels.
Oh,
maybe
that's a bit confusing. I probably wouldn't want to have this in my house. So actually, I would be probably one of those people who, when walking into a house looking for an apartment, even if I really like the apartment, I would probably not go. No.
Actually, you know the story behind this?
No.
Actually, the thing is that looks like it's accessibility that you didn't wanted to implement, and like for instance, I don't know, floor number 31 looks like they installed all these labels after they installed all the buttons, and they have to like put something for maybe people with blindness or something. So I think I don't know for sure, but looks like this elevator been accessibilized.
Maybe, but it's like weird because why don't you have any button for 36 and 32?
Because it was vandalized. I think someone just took it off. Okay. Yeah, it's too serious. On the number 11, you cannot see the numbers because I was I put them in the wrong corner. Number 11, it's tricky one. What do you think? What's the problem here? And actually, it's actual complaint from the customers. What's the problem with this label?
On 36 and 32. I don't know. Is it jeans? It looks like it's jeans. It doesn't say if it's male or female.
Yes. Yeah. And actually, our stream just got demonetized. Oh, okay. And I can, the complaint from the customer, it was from a male customer. It's not that important, but yeah.
Male
And the
customer.
problem is in the line 36, 32.
Well, there is an X instead of times sign. There's a capital X.
The history, and you can guess, you can play with us in chat. So, and actually the problem, should I tell you the answer?
Hold on, let's see. So 36 and 32. I mean, it's just, so the X is definitely wrong. So it's typographic mistake because it should be the times sign, but I'm not sure that this is what you're referring to.
I'd say that this customer was mentally challenged. I would not say stupid, but yeah, the complaint was something like this.
Okay, you tell me.
Okay, so big problem in this label is that it doesn't have letters W, waist, and L, length. So the customer didn't know which number is for. Yeah,
okay.
That's the problem, because like, I don't know, are they? Yeah,
I think is it standardized? I always thought that this is kind of like width and length. Maybe not.
maybe not, but it was a real complaint. And and we have a question from Vladimir Minkin. Question for you: how do you think physical user interface will change, or maybe already changing, in time of social distancing and touch avoidance?
Yeah, this is a very good question, because I think there was a research in Japan where they looked into how elevators change. And actually, if you look in, for example, if you ever walk in a Microsoft building or Google building, it's become very common that you don't even have to click any buttons or touch any buttons. Essentially, you have somebody, security guard, who is going to click a button on their machine or whatever it is, the remote that they're using or anything. And then you have, let's say, 4 elevators, and the elevators decide what is the best way for you to move up or move down. And then you just walk in, and that's it, right? This is an example of how like the physical interface actually is changing. Now, on the other hand, I think that, and I think it's actually, I mean, it's really a bit off topic, I guess. But I think we're living through very crucial times, which will change a lot about how we perceive the world. And we saw that right now, like the things that happened this year, they affected so many industries, like almost everybody except maybe a few developers in the world. And many people got unemployed and all that stuff. And we're very privileged to be in a very comfortable position to not be affected, at least partly not be affected by that. But I think that in many ways, even things like conferences or things like shopping store, malls, or things like that will change dramatically. One thing that's becoming kind of ubiquitous now, it's a bit lower. One thing that's becoming ubiquitous now in the US is that this notion of going to a store to buy things is disappearing, which is very interesting. So you don't have this kind of interface. Like in the past, you would have all the clothing and tons of different, areas or in the city where you can buy stuff, right? And now they're more like a showroom where you walk in, you try it out, but you will never be able to try out the same thing, right? So it's not for sale, it's just to be able to experience it, right? And once we think about it, then as a result, you also see a lot of companies shutting down their offices or their retail stores, which gives more space for other people to move in, which in the end reduces pricing for people to move into the city, which in the end reduces prices for property, which also gives an opportunity for people to move and be available remotely for work. And this has like this dramatic impact that we cannot probably anticipate yet, especially in terms of urban design when it comes to cities, how they will be laid out, right? We see like right now already a lot of bike lanes being introduced as a response, and we see a lot of cities thinking about introducing measures to restrict the number of tourists coming in. So this has dramatic impact on pretty much everything, and we don't even feel it yet. I think that most of the time when it comes to social distancing, I think we will just not have to push buttons or click buttons. Maybe it will be audio, right? Maybe it will be some sort of glasses, VR, AR, these kind of things, or we're operating with our phone. But I would not expect, tons of microwaves with buttons or something like that in the future.
Have you seen this sketch like Scottish elevator?
No.
11. Yeah, just Google elevator in Scotland, and it's really hilarious. So two guys try to go upstairs on 11th floor, but they are Scottish, and this is new elevator built with voice activation or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they trade. Okay, let's.
Yeah, that's a good question, but there's still like a lot of issues with voice, because if you speak to an Alexa, I'm just happen to be in Airbnb here. If you speak to Alexa's listening. If you speak to Alexa, it doesn't matter if I say something or a friend or you, it will still perceive it as the same voice. And it will not really understand me most of the time, frankly, if I want to be very specific. If I say, Alexa, play music. Alexa, play music. Okay,
I like it when your voice, like when you think Alexa, was like, please.
Yeah, it doesn't want to. I don't know why. It was. Okay, it doesn't matter.
Let's jump into number 10. 10 best real-life design solutions. Number 10. What's wrong with this one?
Well, I don't think it's wrong because it's affordable, so it's pretty clear, I think, that you need to press it.
Yeah, but can you, like, what's the problem here? You can read the text, and it's a bit confusing, I would say.
Please close this door quietly as guests may be sleeping.
Yeah, and it's fire exit only. So it means either this...
it's fire exit only. Okay.
Yeah, so either this building experienced a lot of fires recently, please, our guests are sleeping.
That's a bit unusual, I would say.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it first.
Yeah, fire exit and people sleep. Next one, number 9.
Is it your rating? Is it you who've selected them? You went through thousands of designs?
Yeah, of course.
Or did you find it at boardpanda.com?
The thing is that actually it looks like a normal moldy bread, right? So it's not really fresh. Yeah. But turns out something...
Oh, okay.
So what do you think about this bag?
I mean, it would be nice if it was, let's maybe, red or so. So if I wanted to eat with nuts or so, you can just design nuts. But it's a little bit confusing, to say the least.
A little bit, yeah. A little bit. Okay, number 8. What's wrong here?
So it's similar to the previous one, but I think...
just imagine you're a customer, you're a client of this door.
Well, I think that some people try to pull, the other people try to push. I guess.
Chat, what do you think? What is the biggest problem with this door? Just imagine you I don't know, you are in the rush, or it's I don't know, maybe public toilet door, or I don't know, whatever, and you're trying to open this. And one question to you: from which side you will push this door?
I think that it's like normally when you see this construction or this kind of layout, then you push. You don't pull. In
Yeah,
the
you
US,
push.
at least.
Yeah, you push, but from what side of the door? So because on one side of the door, it's
Right.
actually connected to the like wall.
Yeah, so you would probably push in the middle then.
Okay, it's a bit tricky. Yeah, maybe it's obvious for someone, but it's a bit like always. I prefer the doors are opening from left to right,
From left to right, yes.
from left to right. But who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's open like this, and you will try to open this like. Okay,
Yeah,
this one
good
is not
call.
so funny. Number 7. What's the problem here?
Social distancing.
Well, yeah, of course, but
What is the problem here?
and actually, I noticed one thing, but I don't know, is it custom or not? Is
So,
this class? So, for instance, you are not right-handed person.
yes, then you have a problem.
Yeah, but you know,
Unless you can flip it, because in some cases you can flip.
you can flip, but I don't know. Looks like they are attached to it. You can.
Then it will be flipped incorrectly because it wouldn't be comfortable for you to write.
Yeah, but you can notice. Actually, I didn't notice this, but you can notice on the far end.
Yes.
But
Yeah, it's flipped. But I think it's just turned around.
Yeah, maybe.
So
I
it's
don't
not
know.
attached to the ground.
Yeah, so looks like this class is not really, like accessible. I don't know. Yeah, it's a problem because I don't know exact numbers, but as far as I understand, there are a lot of left-handed people.
I think it's 8% in the world, if I'm not mistaken. It's not that many. So most
Yeah.
people are right-handed, I think, but it's a lot of people, obviously.
Yeah, and for instance, the students, I don't know, for some not laptops, but mobile phones. Yeah, of course, sometimes it's not really convenient. But in this classroom, left-handed people, there would be a big problem just to attend.
Yes, but I think that you can. I mean, I think I was in a class where they had tables like this, and you just flip them, so it's just really rotates. But then, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right.
Okay, number 6. What's wrong here?
I don't know where to start. So why would you put a black border that looks like it's stairs? I'm sure that some people will fall over, thinking that they have to step up.
I think it's really funny because like just imagine you're trying to step on this step and it will
I'm
fall.
almost confident. I'm like almost certain that it was you who painted it over.
Yeah, I can. Next one. It's a restroom. It's a public toilet. So what's the problem here? So if you would like to go to do your business, in which door you will go?
Well, I think that based on the illustration. Oh, hold on. Yeah, there is a confusing thing on the left. But then I think that some people would understand that the right one is for female and then the left is for male, but it could be confusing.
Hi, Max. And yeah, and do you know do you know the pointers and setters?
Yes. In
Yes.
software development.
Well, I think it came from baseball or something like this.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not that obvious. And what do you think? What can you say about the public restroom and which is because many of cafes and other public places they put some strange labels or something like suit or something. What do you think? What is the best solution?
Well, I really like obvious solutions, to be honest. I mean, you can still be very much branded if you say gentlemen, ladies. I don't think that this is bad in any way. It's just about branding and the style of how you present it. You don't need to invent new words, I guess, for these things that are kind of important, I guess.
And the big problem is that I don't know. For instance, in Russia, of course, they usually put letters
Cyrillic.
and Cyrillic. But for foreigners, it's sometimes like because like it's Cyrillic, and the same I believe for China. Not all the places, but
Probably. That's very
probably.
likely.
Okay, next one. Don't leave it on the beach. Put it in the bin.
The child.
Yeah, that's a problem because like there are several objects, and I think it's a pool or something like this. And once I said shit here, so I can continue. So it looks like they talking about this one, this little shit, and not that. And
Come on, you have to be
Okay.
respectful. This is a wonderful little child.
but it's not mine, so why should I care?
You should be respectful about them as well.
Okay, sorry, I'm here to offend someone, so looks like I offended you. So yeah, and let's jump to the next one. What can you say about this?
Oh, that's not very practical, I would say.
What's the problem here?
There is no problem. It's perfect. I wish everybody it was like this everywhere.
Yeah, you can squat here and eat some semichki or something like this.
I'm not sure. You can always, it's very close. So you can eat and then throw the garbage right there. It's like the distance between the initial action and the next action is minimal. So I kind of like it. It's perfect, isn't it?
Okay, and of course, yeah, that's why it's on the third place, and we have two left.
Okay.
Number 2, drum roll. What's wrong with this menu picture? It looks really nice.
Oh, this is the wrong perspective for the piece, isn't it? It's just upside down, isn't it?
Yes, but can you guess what? I don't know the history of this image, but it looks a bit strange, I would say. And the prices,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah, because it's something is turned upside down. It's just wrong perspective.
Yeah, you can, and it's a second place. And the first place
Goes to it's like your vision all over.
Okay. I would say it's a bit shitty design.
Okay, so what is wrong here?
What's wrong here? Chat, what do you think? What's wrong with this picture? We have 15 seconds delay, so I think you have 15 seconds to figure out what's wrong with this picture.
Well, maybe the bar isn't quite where it's supposed to be.
Maybe, but actually, no, that's not the problem. Not the main problem.
Hold on. Let's see. Well, there is paper.
I think Vitaly, you're actually.
I'm overthinking, maybe.
I don't know.
Alexander agrees. Everything is just as it should be.
Yeah, and others looks like they can figure out. Maybe you're a saint person.
Well, the wall, but then it's just it's a very nice wallpaper. It's like a toothbrush thing.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Colors too.
Yeah. But not for the public restroom, I would say. Not for this.
Well, I would totally put these wallpapers in your house.
Yeah, and Alexander is saying that the bin isn't in the right place. Yeah, I'm mad on this bin.
Excellent.
Okay.
Cool.
And that's it for yeah. And do you agree with these places? And like, should we put something on the first spot?
I think I don't know where. I don't know. I think the weirdest thing I've ever seen was in a Japanese hotel where the rooms are really tiny and everything felt like it's a really micro museum where everything is extremely tiny, extremely small. So I think that maybe one of those would be working. Especially singing tutorials are always exciting to me.
Yeah, and Alexander said that actually the bin location makes perfect sense. You can just pull the paper and it would flow into the bin, and you just have to insert your S somewhere in the between, and that's it.
Okay,
That
sounds reasonable. Why not?
yeah, sounds reasonable. And actually, we are here for 1 hour.
1 hour
So
already. Excellent,
wow,
excellent.
and let's jump into the next section. And I know that you prepared something for us. And
Yes, but you asked for yeah. Go ahead.
I asked for
You asked for
5 wonders of the web.
yeah. I have 25, but I'm not going
25.
to go to 25.
Actually, we can see your screen now, so you can because the actually I forgot to say a few words about this section. Is that real life design sometimes it does not go well, but web design it's always perfect. So Vitaly, could you please give us an example of perfect web design or something that you have to visit, some websites?
Okay, so I just prepared like 5. I actually really 25 websites, but I think that I want to show 5, which I think are representative of things that we can do on the web and interesting things that we can do on the web. So can you tell me if you can see everything?
Yeah, you can press hide.
Just disappeared. Hold on, let me go back. Oh, not this one. Where was it? Oh, here we go. Okay, I'll just click hide. So, okay, and then it disappeared here. And here we go.
Yeah.
This should be working, I think. Well, let's just play again. Right. So essentially, this is a very rare website. This is a portfolio of an artist from France, I believe. And very often when we think about portfolio, it's going to be just a bunch of gray boxes in a perfect grid and things like that. And he essentially turned this entire portfolio website into more like a game where you have to use your keyboard in order to navigate a car or a truck. And as you're moving, you're kind of exploring the different project that he was working on, the testimonials, his skills and things like that. And I don't know about you, but I sometimes actually do miss Flash. And not necessarily the technology. The technology wasn't really great. But I kind of miss these crazy experiments where you will actually play a game on somebody's portfolio website. That's kind of fun and unusual, and it's a very unusual navigation as well. But I think it's really memorable. And in many ways, it kind of highlights his personality in the way that most portfolio websites don't. So I kind of wish there were more crazy experiments like this around the web. That would be one website.
How it's made? What do you think? Is it a WebGL or?
It's WebGL, yes.
Oh, okay.
And if you want to see the site actually live, it's bruno-simon.com, and he even has a fob icon which is animated. So it's a really, really nice little website. I highly encourage you to take a look. Right, that's one that I really like a lot. But if you're looking into slightly more normal experiences, I think that for me, one of the better websites is this Polish Teatr Lalka website, which essentially is a puppet show, theater show website. And I really like how they kind of integrate everything seamlessly. I mean, actually, what we're looking at now is a carousel, which you can move left and right, and you can actually play with these characters as well as you're, interacting with the site. And then if you actually click on the menu button, right, they also use this metaphor of the puppet theater. And I think this is a really nice and unique way of integrating a story into your site, which again, I don't see that much. Like most of the time, we're just using predictable patterns, be it, hamburger icon and I don't know, things like that. But here it feels like everything is really telling a story best, right? And there are beautiful transitions. And even if you look at things like filters, it's all very playful and it plays really well with the actual site, right? So I think that this is a really great example of one website where you have an idea from the very start, and then you really kind of make sure that as you're designing different pages and so on, that you always keep that story alive and keep continuing that story, right? And so all these little animations and typography and everything is kind of really plays along with the site. I really love it. I think that this is one of the better examples out there.
Yeah, but is it useful? I mean, just imagine you are going there to, I don't know, look on the contacts, or I don't know, schedule, or to buy tickets, and there are a lot of animations, heavy animations,
You can
JavaScript.
turn them off, I believe, actually. And then, of course, I mean, everything is accessible. You can find tickets and other things as well. So I don't think it's a problem, really. But this is really one of the memorable ones. My favorite one that I've discovered recently is this one. I'm really impressed with this one. I mean, seriously. Not some of the decisions made in terms of usability, but oh wow, this is an incredibly beautiful website. Just from the visual perspective and standpoint, the illustrations are freaking unbelievable. Really, really beautiful. And essentially, I don't even know where the city is located in Russia. I have no idea. But
you don't know Tobolsk?
No, I don't know
Oh,
Tobolsk.
it's a really famous city. I
Is
believe
it?
everyone in Russia should know where Tobolsk is located. Actually, I don't know.
Oh well, it's in Siberia. That's what I know. But
Of
just
course.
these animations are incredible. Like really tiny but beautiful little animations. Like the cat moving with its tail, and all those little things kind of make for an incredible experience. I think this is a really, really beautiful site. Maybe the navigation with maps could be a little bit better, but I think that you can almost feel like somebody took a lot of effort and a lot of passion actually to create this site. I think this is something that we actually don't see that much either. So that's definitely worth looking at. Like definitely one of my favorite ones recently. Very, very beautiful. Well done. If you know anybody who is working on it, like really touché, really well done, beautiful.
And who lives in Tobolsk?
And just in general, people who live in Tobolsk are great, I'm sure. And then there is this one, which is just extremely complex. So this is the visualization from nature.com. And essentially what they've been working on nature.com is trying to connect or display the dependencies between different papers that were published in academia about all kind of scientific experiments and scientific projects, right? And it's more like a data visualization task, but I can almost imagine how complicated it must have been. To have this 3D visualization of all the different dots, and every single dot represents essentially a paper that was published within the last 100 of years or so. And once you click on one of them and you kind of explore, you can also explore connections. So once you tap anywhere, you actually can see that paper and when it was published and how it's connected with something else as well. And as you're kind of navigating it, you see this huge mess of arts, biology, biomedical research, chemistry, right? It's a really incredible visualization that you can play with. But then if you want to really dive into details for a very particular part of it, right? So maybe you're interested in one particular paper, then not only do you get all the information, obviously, about it, but you can also explore it in a bit more detail. So once you click on it to explore, right, which is going to take a while to load, you essentially see all the different dependencies of all the other papers that were maybe referencing that particular paper, and you explore it again in this 3D space. And as you can see, some of them are really, really kind of making a big deal and have a tremendous impact. And so we see this kind of happening there. Just from the perspective of data visualization and complexity of making sense of all the papers and researching and just connecting all the dots literally for these papers, this looks incredible. Probably one of the better visualizations I've seen for a long time. Right.
Interesting. Can you do the same for a node models folder?
I'm sure you can. I just don't think it's open sourced. I'm sorry.
And yeah, and interesting in this site is interesting what the clusters of like related documents, and you can track, I don't know, the most not the famous, how to say, but
the
most important,
most important.
Yeah, because like if it's like a left path, if you remember.
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, something like this, but
it's seriously impressive. I mean, really, right? Can I show 3 more?
Of course, we have plenty of time.
Okay.
So if you guys in chat, if you don't have a time, just I don't know, put some emoji in the chat.
Yes. So just a few more I want to show, just because I think it's very simple. So Penguin House has published this one, which essentially allows you to select a book for a friend and then buy it and send them as a gift, right? And there is nothing magical going on here. It's just a very simple site, to be honest. So for example, you can buy something for your sister, you just have to select what they would like to be or anything, right? And so you select it, but what I really like is this cursor that kind of moves around and kind of waits as well. So as you click from one place to another, it's just like, telling you, okay, you're waiting. And it's extremely simple, but I think that this playing and engaging with that cursor is that one thing that makes it extremely unique in many ways. It's very simple, but it's kind of really cool.
I really like this cursor. I think
Yeah, it's great.
I don't know, maybe it's a bit scary for me.
Scary?
Yeah, of course, it's like some living cursor that can refuse my orders or something like that.
Maybe it should. I don't know. I really like it, actually.
I don't like when cursor on the page is smarter than me.
Well, it's not smarter than you, it just follows your orders. Now, in terms of complexity, I want to show this one. This is a car configurator by Dodge. And oh my, they went all the way in. So I think I will have to turn off my volume here, because it will be crazy. So essentially, imagine you're coming to Dodge. This is just one of the one of the cars that you can buy, and I have this tremendous, like, really high-end game-like experience where it's actually has audio as well. And if I maybe swipe left and right or so, kind of has all these visual effects. And actually they use a lot of SVG filters, and they also use WebGL and videos, and it's just an incredible amount of detail that went into this, because once you start kind of playing with it, you can adjust wheels, or you can adjust kind of look into interior, look into exterior, the regular things, which is kind of cool. So if once it's loaded, right, you can actually click and drag it around and move it closer and all things like that. And it looks really, really cool. But of course, you will need a pretty decent machine to make it work well, right? But then you kind of interact with all the different parts, and it tells you the story about that car and what it's capable of doing. And it's an extremely visual, immersive experience, both with audio and video. The only thing is, of course, it does require quite a bit of loading. So if you're on a bad connection, it's not going to work. But like, just the sheer impressiveness of it is noticeable. It's just not something you can pull off on a Sunday night. This looks really, really cool.
Last time, I'm not bragging, but last time I was in US, I got a Challenger, and actually, it's not the best car in the world.
Okay, let's not tell anybody. Right?
Of course, yeah.
And the final one I want to show is this one, which is a portfolio again, but this is a very unusual one. I mean, I'm wondering, Evgeny, if you understand how it actually works. So this is the portfolio site. Let me just play it. So you come to the site, and it says that the site works only in synchronization with the mobile version.
So I should open a mobile version.
Yes. So you open your mobile phone,
okay.
and then you have to scan the QR code,
okay.
and then you have to type in the the value that you have, 3636. Right?
Okay.
And then something happens. Now this is what it's going to do. So it shows like 3636 on desktop, right? Or 3632, and then you click on sync, and then you end up with this on your mobile phone.
So right? it's like a remote TV controller.
Yes, and this becomes a remote control for your TV, because this is what the desktop looks like then.
Okay.
And essentially, you can click on your phone on different buttons, and then it will jump from one channel to the next based on your input, because you've synced them. Right? And it's kind of really cool, because you feel like, you have this TV with a green plant next to it. Yeah, but then every single channel, so to say, is a project by this designer, with a bit of promo, I guess, highlighting what it actually does. But the best part about this, that it has a fully functional video text as well. Right?
Wow.
Where all the content is actually hidden.
Wow.
And you can swipe and you can scroll down and you can click on links and all of that stuff. And essentially, it's just a very unique kind of very unique experience that you would get, right? I think it's I don't know how much time it took to develop, but I think it's one of the unique ones.
Who noticed Pornhub there? Please put some emoji of eggplant in chat.
I think only you do mentioning these kind of things, right?
And you asked how did they achieve that? And I think it's like maybe WebSockets, some web
Probably,
server.
I guess.
Yeah, I
But I
guess.
think that like all these examples just show one thing. I mean, we can do a lot of interesting stuff on the web. Most of the time, we kind of rely on things that just worked in the past, and so we end up with quite generic and predictable results. But I think that the reason why I showed them is because they are extremely outstanding. Like, it's very difficult to come across them, and I think that in many ways, people who will stumble upon this kind of portfolio, let's say, they will remember it, and being remembered is actually a very good and powerful thing. Most services look very similar, so I think this could be a competitive edge actually once you do stand out somehow. So that's a couple of favorite websites.
Nice. Do you want to create something like this by yourself, like for your CV or portfolio?
I actually spent quite a bit of time thinking about specific problems, so I really like that. So, for example, I've been spending on the last 4 days going through hundreds and hundreds of websites for public transportation. I found 2 incredible websites from Mongolia, really nice websites from Mongolia, which I was very impressed about.
Do you speak Mongolian?
Of course not, but the script is Cyrillic. And let me just share a couple of Mongolian sites with you.
Of course.
I don't think that you will ever go to a Mongolian website in your life.
And in the meanwhile, Vladimir Minkin, people, I know you use Dart. I'm developing Flux alternative to Redux Wire. Please take a look. Thanks, Vladimir. It's totally relevant to this discussion. But yeah, we will definitely take a look.
So let me share the screen with you again. Then actually, I have another call in 12 minutes, so probably should be at some point wrapping up. But I want to show you, hold on. So I think you can see it. Now look at this beautiful site. Now, just in case you haven't, you don't know Mongolian, I don't either.
Just in case.
Just in case. I mean, it's probably not that beautiful, but I think that it's very interesting that it doesn't matter where you're from, because in the end you end up using very similar patterns that we all are using anyway. So this is just a map for elections, I guess. I have no idea. After going through Mongolian websites for 4 hours, I had an incredible headache, because for some reason all the letters are capital letters everywhere. It was very confusing to me. But you can read it. I mean, I can read it because I speak Cyrillic, right? But the words are really difficult for me. I mean, I don't know why, but I had a lot of trouble with that. And then another one, which was kind of interesting, is, I believe, this one, which is unigui.mn, whatever that means. And I guess this is just some sort of an e-commerce site where you can sell and buy things, right? And actually, it was really interesting because in many ways, they never use hamburger icon at all. So everything is displayed at all times, and they have a very advanced search as well. And it's kind of interesting because most of the time for this kind of big, heavy sites that have so much content, they have, I think, like 92,000 or so different products to sell. You would have some sort of a navigation with hamburger icon, but they don't. And I think that's really well designed in terms of search and navigation and filters displayed together. I think it's pretty cool. And this is a great website to learn Mongolian as well, I think. Right?
Yeah, just
that was very impressive.
Yeah, if you ever wonder to learn Mongolian, please visit this site. Why not?
Yeah, there is always an opportunity to learn something. So why not Mongolian website?
So we have a couple of more additional minutes, but let's talk a little bit about web design and professions and about everything actually. So right now and there are different opinions on that. Some of the people, they thinking that everything would be combined. So like we again will return to the webmasters, when
Mhm.
how it was 15 years ago, when you have to know design some JavaScript or something to build the web pages from the beginning to end. Some of
Mhm.
the people, they think that no, that's not true. And we will definitely, we should split on like designers, people who know, I don't know, maybe designers for buttons or
Mhm.
something really specific, really small but deep. What is your vision? But because I think that many of front end developers watching us right now will watch it in the future. So what do you think? What is the best thing to learn more and be a broad person, or
Yeah, I think like one thing that really helped me to survive in this crazy world over the last 20 years is the fact that it was very important for me to have a complete picture of what is actually happening on the web. So I've never, written a single line of Dart, but I kind of
oh,
have an understanding of what it's supposed to do, right? And I also, the same goes for TypeScript, and the same goes for I don't know, WebSockets and all the different technologies. And I watch out and I look out for everything that comes in browsers. That's probably the most important thing for me, actually. So every month I really need to go for the browser kind of docs of what has been released in a new version, and so better support for this, better support for that, and so on, just to really keep that picture of the landscape of the web up to date. That's very important. It's really been incredibly difficult over the last couple of years to follow and to catch up. And that's been really, really hard. But at the same time, that's what gives me kind of an overview of where we are. I think it's impossible for a single person to know the web, right? It's just, I don't think that we are going to end up with a world of webmasters. There is specialization happening, and there are front-end developers, there are back-end developers, there are full-stack developers, although I'm always a little bit skeptical about full-stack. I mean, I think it's really, really hard to know front-end and back-end really well. I
yeah, but
mean,
it can be usually when we saying like full stack developer, it means just JavaScript with some Node.js background and some.
yes, but I mean, if you look in let's say many European companies will expect that somebody who is a full-stack developer can also write some decent CSS, because they work on front-end stuff and they work on back-end stuff,
Yeah,
right? And
and
so very often kind of it all gets reduced to that one unicorn who happens to be just responsible for everything. And that's a very dangerous path, because first of all, that person has to get paid a lot, hopefully, if they
yeah,
have the skills. But second of all, I think that it's very, very hard to keep track of both front-end and back-end at the same time. It's just a lot of stuff, right? And so I do see specialization becoming a regular thing. I don't think that we're going to end up with designers designing buttons and designers designing icons. We'll probably have a pretty clear split where you have, I mean, more or less clear, where maybe you have a front-end designer and
hmm
front-end developer, and then interface designer or UX designer,
hmm
and then full-stack developer or back-end developer. And the front-end designer is a very interesting role, because they would be sitting somewhere between kind of regular JavaScript world
hmm
and regular interface design and Sketch, and work around accessibility as well with CSS and HTML and all that stuff. And that's probably a role that I would feel comfortable with filling in myself. That would be my spot, I think. That would be not a full stack developer or JavaScript developer, and that would not be an interface designer, but like that front end designer would be maybe something that I could relate to, right? So I think that many of those little roles which are filling in the gaps will become very normal. I don't know. You tell me. Is it very common to see job positions for front end designers maybe in Eastern Europe?
I think no. I think many companies, they don't know for sure. They just post some positions, and person can evolve inside the company. Like, but one thing is that you can, as for instance, you can sell yourself sell yourself as this person. You can go to market and shout like, "Hey, I'm very unique. I'm a combination of something. I don't know, backend developer and
SEO.
backend developer and manager." Just imagine, it's like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
or something like this. So it means that you can sell yourself. Why not? And
Mm-hmm.
okay, to closing this one, last advice from a really wise man.
Oh,
Okay, there are a lot of things happening in the world, in the web world or design world. What is your key to success? How to? There are a lot of information flying around. Uh, how to? What is digital sanity, or how to not get lost in this amount of information?
well, I think I just learned how to just relax a little. I mean, I don't bother. It doesn't bother me that I have like thousands of unreplied emails, and then I have a lot of newsletters that came in my way, and I have no idea, like maybe also thousands. And I'm not trying to kind of chase everything. I'm just trying to get to that picture and the map and keep an up-to-date map that I think was really help me. And so I know if I need to look into, I don't know, how to make more accessible maps, right? I know exactly where to look. I know which newsletter to check, and I know maybe which articles I've noticed or I've seen as a case study. And don't even need to read the entire article all the time, but more just to have in mind, okay, maybe I could speak with this developer, like ask them for like half an hour of the time to really understand what the landscape is based on the experience, right? That's very useful for me. So one thing is really just not chase. And I feel like if something is really important, it will kind of bubble up on Twitter, in my email newsletters, or in conversations with friends. It just happens like that. And I think the other thing that really helped me as well, and I would highly encourage everyone to actually do that as well, just if you really want to be successful and you want to be known for something, or you want to make a career, right, which is all valid things to do, you need to be visible. You need to be visible somehow. It could be, a side project that you have. It could be a podcast. It could be a blog. It could be speaking at meetups, online or offline, it doesn't matter. All those things are really, really important, because this automatically will bring your reputation. And this will also help you, because once you have to speak about something, you'll have to understand it really well. So that's been like my thing. So if I speak about something on stage, that's because I've been thinking about it for a while. And so I really have to deliver it in a way that people will understand. And that makes me really understand it. It's like, teaching. It's always the same thing. And I think that in many ways, teaching or being visible and sharing what you've learned is extremely beneficial for everyone. Obviously, people who are going to listen to you because they get to learn your experience, but also for you, because you will end up with a pretty solid understanding of what you're working on, because you'll be you have consumed it, and you kind of found some insights there. And it will bring you reputation. People will notice you, and this will not necessarily bring you new projects. This is not how it worked for me.
Yeah.
It's not like, I get to jump from one company to another because they spot me somewhere. But it brings you to the point where, somebody might think that, oh, actually, we need somebody who spent quite a bit of time working on, I don't know, Dart. Oh, hold on, this guy or this girl or whoever spoke at a meetup about Dart. Maybe we can talk to them.
Yeah. Or we need someone who can tell bad jokes. We know this person for sure.
Excellent. So then they hire you.
Of course, if you want to have bad jokes, so please.
Yeah. So Evgeny is available for bad joking.
Okay. Thank you, Vitaly. It was a big pleasure to see you here. Thanks
Thank
for
you so much
everyone.
for having me.
Yes, thanks for everyone who was here and will watch us later. And thank you very much, and have a nice evening. Bye
Have a
bye.
nice evening, everyone. Bye bye.